And thank you for those of you who are joining us through our social media channels. We really appreciate it. Okay, so it's always a great opportunity for me to give a refresher about who CPAN is. COA has been around now for over 20 years, so it's very easy for those of us who work in the oncology space to think that everybody knows who we are. And there is a lot of truth that people know COA very, very well, especially in Washington, D.C. And fortunately, many of our cancer centers all across the United States also know who CPAN is. But this is an opportunity for me to remind you, just in case you may have forgotten. So we're a national organization, and we're actually the patient component of COA's organization. So our primary role with CPAN is to provide foundational learning. And I get the question, what does foundational learning mean? It means that before we have our advocates ending up on Capitol Hill and in all of COA's media campaigns, we start by the very basics, going out to the cancer centers or through virtual events and introducing the concept of site of care. Did you know that this place you're being treated at is called a community oncology practice? Did you know that there's threats to these kinds of settings? And having been to over 35 cancer centers, and you'll hear this from our special guest later in this talk today, it's a misconception to think that any cancer patient walks into a center and says, oh, this is an academic setting, this is a non-for-profit, this is a joint venture. Nobody talks that way. All they know is their relationship with the patient. So we start with the basics. We educate them on community oncology, and then we gradually start introducing more in-depth topics like who is COA and what do we advocate for. We start to talk about PBMs and prior authorizations and cancer clinic consolidation. So that is what we do. We educate. It's a major focus. So our advocacy is education and policy. And a big component of that is that our cancer patients then, once they start to understand, oh, this is what COA does. Well, I love my doctor. I love my nurses. I love this cancer center. Then they start to share their patient stories. And what makes change with advocacy is when patients share their stories with our state policymakers and our federal policymakers. So that's who we are and what we're mainly known for. We're also known for a lot of things that many of you may not see on a regular basis. We collaborate and support all of COA's initiatives, all the internal initiatives, whether we're supporting the Pharmacy Association, the Administrators Network, the state policy, and these are mutually beneficial relationships. So our patients and survivors love being part of this, and it also adds a patient voice to so many of these initiatives. We also support and align with COA's industry partners. We're very grateful to our industry partners for how they support COA. They make the medications that keep many of our cancer survivors alive or extend their life. So that is, CPAN plays a big role in that as well. And we also, when appropriate, collaborate with other national advocacy organizations. So that's a big overview of who we are and what we do. Next slide, please. And patients, well, we use the word a lot, right? But sometimes we actually forget that the people we see as patients are truly patients. They really live through this. So these beautiful individuals here are some of the cancer survivors and advocates that were recently with us at the COA conference in April. And I, of course, do have the permission to share these photos. You may recognize some of the names because they're from our cancer centers here in the US. And what's amazing to me is you can see a few of these pictures, not that you need to be smiling, but these are people that are so resilient, that have gone through so much. I know their personal stories, and they're absolutely incredible stories. And these individuals have still chosen to get involved with CPAN and to lend their voice. Some of them are leaders, some of them are advocates, but they're all part of who makes it CPAN. So now you saw the big picture of who we are, but most importantly, you know, we are patients, survivors, caregivers. And of course, CPAN, despite having patient in our acronym, COA's Patient Advocacy Network, our members are everybody. Everybody is an advocate, and that includes our very incredible clinical staff. Next slide, please. So since we started developing CPAN chapters, we have developed 37 CPAN chapters spanning 23 states across the United States. A lot of these logos may look very familiar to you. Like any organization, some of our chapters, for various reasons, it's a neutral statement, not good or bad, are more active than others. But the reality is, at some of the chapters that, or logos that you may see on here, some practices have actually been affected by the policies that COA actually talks about. A lot of our cancer clinics have closed, been consolidated, or have been bought up by other organizations. However, it is important to acknowledge the depth and span of the chapters that we have started, meaning, what does this mean? So we started a chapter in all these cancer centers, 37, patients, survivors, nurses, patients, pharmacists, got exposed to and learned about the impact of COA and the important policy and advocacy issues that COA advocates for. Next slide, please. Okay, so for those of you who are on this call, many of you signed up through our webinar, some of you are participating through social media, but one of the ways that we promoted this talk was about how we have done a lot of advocacy work at the federal and state level. So having a professional background in communications, I don't want to do a bait and switch. So we're going to definitely talk about what we do. So yes, going to Capitol Hill and going to the State House for some advocates that have done that is a very, very exciting experience. But before we do that, before an advocate feels comfortable doing that, we provide a lot of education. And how do we do that? Well, we do that through different events that you'll hear about today. But I want you to take a look at the text box on the right, which is COA's overall policy and advocacy priorities. And for those of you who might have participated in our advocacy chat where I had Nick Ferros as our guest, it was a media review, and this was one of the slides where we highlighted the policy and advocacy priorities that we advocate for or that we're working on. So I don't need to read you every one of these, but you can just see by some of the verbiage, you know, ensuring sustainable provider payments, prior authorization, PBMs. Well, now I'm starting to read all of them, anti-competitive hospital prices. That language isn't necessarily going to resonate with the patient. So what we do is we still promote and educate around these issues, but we do it through different language. We're not changing anything. We're just changing and customizing our message for the audience. So yes, what you see on the left are advocates. These are our CPAN advocates on Capitol Hill. And there's actually some COA staff people. There's Ricky Newman on the far right and Michelle. So that is what we do. We support the policy and advocacy priorities, get advocates prepared for Capitol Hill, and we do it through our CPAN chapters and through a variety of other events. Next slide, please. Okay, so you're getting the message here. So before we get to Capitol Hill, we've either gone out and done a CPAN chapter launch where we're introducing a lot of these concepts, or we're providing education through our major events, like, for example, the COA conference. So this is just an excerpt of a slide that I had in a storytelling presentation that I did during the advocacy track session. And what you'll see here is I intentionally added in these photos of CPAN advocates doing advocacy. So these are individuals from some of our cancer centers. And you know, the guidance for the storytelling session was, please go to YouTube and watch Tansa's story, right? So she's a cancer patient who, again, I got to meet through our chapter leaders. Then she starts to understand, you know, the importance of community oncology. Then she comes out to Capitol Hill. So I'm showing you the cycle of how CPAN operates. Then now we're telling Tansa's story to all of our other advocates during our storytelling session. So we also prepare our advocates during the conference for going to Capitol Hill. So it's not 100% consistent, but we do usually have a summer Hill day. So we have our conference in April, and then we use conference advocacy track to prep our patients to go to Capitol Hill. So during this session, we also gave them the importance of, you know, what are our asks going to be? And at the time, no surprise here, we were doing a lot of education around PBMs. So again, this is how we prepare them for Capitol Hill. Next slide, please. Okay, and in that session, we talked about, this was a how to tell your story, because what's different about CPAN than other organizations is, yes, we do work with patients and survivors, but we're not necessarily saying come to Capitol Hill and talk for 45 minutes about your experience as a colorectal survivor or as a breast cancer survivor. It's important, but we teach them how to weave in that personal piece of their story with the policy piece. So that's why learn how to share your story, because when you personalize a policy issue, it impacts change. So that's where our power comes from as survivors and advocates. Next slide, please. Okay, so the big news this year, we're talking about big events that happened in 2025, was a return of the patient advocacy track for the 11th year. What did we do? You can, well, let's look at the photo, okay, that top photo. That truly is the enthusiasm that the advocates had. They were so excited to have the conference back. It was really incredible. Over a 2-day period, we had 6 sessions. Storytelling Prep for the Hill was a very big part of that. We had 12 incredible speakers. We had 44 patient survivors and caregivers. You can see the breakout. We had patients that were breast cancer patients, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, brain cancer, ovarian, melanoma. Now, again, a lot of these patients, I know their personal story, and they were going through treatment. Some of these people were going through treatment. So this is the impact of CPAN. It's not always going to fall neatly into a metric, but this is the impact that you have these patients that are so moved by their treatment in a community oncology practice. They're going to get on an airplane and they're going to sit through a 2-day conference, and learn and become incredible advocates for CPAN. This other photo on the right, this is another one of our incredible advocates. Some of you may have seen this picture before. Through our chapter leader in New York, she got very involved and she did a major donation. She won an award and then took that award and donated to CPAN, which was really incredible. We had 17, our patients and survivors came from 17 practices in 11 states. And we also create a lot of opportunities for advocates. We had one of our advocates, Della Smith, and another advocate, and she's also a leader, Anna Ortega. They were also filmed for some of the media campaigns that you see on COA's YouTube page. So several of the videos that you'll see throughout the years, over the last 15 years, have featured CPAN advocates. And again, thank you to all our chapter leaders, physician liaisons, practice managers, CEOs, that I met those patients because of you. So thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so at the advocacy track, I just want to do a quick little look because I know some of you did come in and join the advocacy track. If you look at these 6 sessions, they were very, very structured. The first section was a closed session, and this was really special because the advocates get to know each other. And a piece of feedback that I always get is that's something that's very wonderful about being an advocate, is getting to meet other patients. And it's exciting when you meet patients or peers from other parts of the country. Then we had a COA 101 session, this is where our medical co-chairs, Dr. Talukian and Dr. Viaz, came on and gave them the physician perspective, and it's very exciting for patients to see oncologists in a different role. And I know that Chelsey and Rebekah also saw that when we did an event at their practice recently. So most of the time, patients will only know their oncologist as a clinician. So it's really exciting when you see them in a policy advocacy role. And then we did federal advocacy and state advocacy storytelling. And then we had our media relations team. Drew was part of that. He's behind the scenes right now, but he was on the stage. With our communications director as well, Andrea. And it was a really great way that we pack in a lot of information, getting our advocates prepared to represent you, the community oncology practices. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on. We also, through CPAN, do a lot of collaboration with other organizations. This is just a sampling. It's not completely inclusive of some of the organizations that we've worked with this year. How? It could be something like Cancer Care, me going out to the Cancer Care Gala in New York, representing COA. It could be CanCare, a new organization that we had their CEO as a recent advocacy chat guest. It could be some of these other organizations, Pancreatic Leukemia Lymphoma, where we have shared their resources with our nurses and pharmacists at the practice, genetic counseling. So we do a lot of work with when it's appropriate, when it's compatible. This is just a sampling. Next slide, please. So a big way that we're reaching people is through these chats. So thank you. You are a part of it. You're part of the success. We launched these in 2020. I host them. This webinars, we call them chats. They're actually, virtual webinars. And they're strategic. They're designed to target and educate people about COA's policy and advocacy initiatives, showcase the oncology workforce. For those of you who saw COA's Blueprint for Health, our prescription for health, we talk about the oncology workforce. So what better way to show off our pharmacists and oncology nurses than through our advocacy chats? So to show you the impact that these chats have is this year, we've had over 1,000 views, which is phenomenal. Think about 1,000 people in a room. Okay, so this is 1,000 people who have either participated live or on demand. So we know that the interest and the impact is there. And since the inception, I'm proud to say that we've had over 15,000 views and probably even more. We've had 59 advocacy chats and 54 phenomenal speakers. So thank you all for making this a success. It is you, it's part of you. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is a sampling of the incredible speakers this year. So we have our senior COA leadership, senior leadership from very well-known national organizations. These are organizations that have been around for over 50, 100, some of them 50, 75 years. The Prevent Cancer Foundation, we spotlight our member practices. Florida Cancer Specialists, we spotlight our team members. We spotlight our oncology nurses. Shelley Funasso, this is her organization. NCCS is the largest survivorship organization. They recently did a rebrand on their name. Phenomenal. She comes out and speaks. This is the impact that we're able to bring in these powerful speakers to come and talk to our membership. You can see some of my colleagues on here who talked about health equity, pharmacy, and these two incredible speakers that you're going to get to hear very soon. So next slide, please. And this was just this year. So again, here's a breakout. The slides are available after of the strategy behind these advocacy chats. So this year alone, we've discussed five chats have been on COA's policy initiatives and resources. We've done 2 chats, 2 webinars on the value of the community oncology workforce, and also topical interest points for patients. So nutrition, survivorship, these are not just important to patients, they're important to our providers. And again, the survivorship experience, caregiving, and then today's talk, of course. So incredible. And you can tell that I really love our little tagline because I pull it out: educational conversations on cancer advocacy and policy, and we deliver. So thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, we also support our industry partners. This is a sampling, it's not completely inclusive, but again, how do we support our industry partners? Primarily through supporting any of their initiatives that are patient focused, where we can share this information with our nurses, leaders. I also do my best to attend as many of our industry partners advocacy events as possible. I love this photo down on the right. This was at ASCO. Pfizer's been a really incredible supporter of COA and CPAN for many years, and they bring together advocacy leaders from across the country every year in Chicago. And that's very inspiring for us as leaders, because guess what? As leaders, we need inspiration too. And we often get that, not just from our patients and survivors, but we get it from each other. So this is just a sampling of some of the pharma partners that we have collaborated and supported this year. Next slide, please. In my role, I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm saying that really quickly. I'm not going to go into details now. It's not appropriate, not the timing. But I'm also very honored to represent the patient voice in areas where it really matters. And many of you know that COA, many years ago, started the Oncology Medical Home and has partnered with ASCO. And for many years, I served as a patient representative on this practice-changing initiative. And I am beyond honored to be included as one of the authors on this prestigious publication. And of course, for those of you who are part of ASCO, you can research this document and get access to it or get a membership. So it's an honor to be part of this. And I want to share this as just one example of the way that I lend my thought leadership and my patient experience representing COA and hopefully impacting practice change as well. Next slide, please. Okay, just a quick one. And boy, I changed my font really small here. My apologies for that. Just a quick recap of the advocate opportunities that we provide to our patients. Some of our leaders, many of our leaders, I'm always looking for speaking opportunities for them. The advocacy track, bringing in patient survivors, bringing out our leaders as well. They get to be interviewed, and their campaigns, their video interviews often become part of COA's media campaigns. We provide scholarships. We bring them out to Capitol Hill. And this year, something new that our communications director started was a training of some of our, a more formalized training for our advocates. So 5 of our CPAN advocates from practices that included Hem-Onc of Central New York, Hope Cancer Care of Nevada, New York Cancer and Blood Specialists, Northwest Georgia Oncology, and Onkem of Loudoun, Reston, Virginia, were trained to become advocates on call. So that was really impressive and a great opportunity for them as well. So mutually beneficial. Next slide, please. Okay, now what other way does CPAN operate and function? Well, we expand CPAN's messaging and COA's messaging through multiple venues. And one of the ways we do that is by maintaining and building relationships with national organizations. For the last 4 or 5 years, one of the ways that we do that is I will reach out every February or January to our DC-based national advocacy organizations. And these are big, powerful organizations. This is a sampling of some of them listed here. And we invite them out to this State of Community Oncology event. And this is an event that COA has been doing for a few years. Again, very powerful. It's a kickoff event. And what happens at that event is we always introduce the new COA board president. The COA board president served 2 years. So here's Dr. Gerber Pat. So all these leaders said yes to the invitation, and they come out, and they're major contributors in terms of participating. They get to see and meet the COA board president. And also they get to hear from COA senior leadership about the priorities for COA in the year ahead. So another way, and this is at the National Press Club, one of my favorite venues. So very proud of this as well. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is a thank you to the different, and again, I wish I could include everybody because I know we don't have like day and physician networks, for example. Jeff is our chapter leader there, and he's one of our most dedicated people in terms of sharing our news on social media, LinkedIn, et cetera. Just a quick walkthrough. This is some of our chapters: Hem-Onc of Central New York, Hope Cancer Care of Nevada, promoting our events. So there's a lot of ways to be an advocate and support CPAN. It doesn't always have to be a huge financial donation to COA, but that never hurts. But you can share our social media posts. So next slide, please. Again, more of our chapters: Coastal Cancer Care, Clearview Cancer Care, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Eastern Connecticut, These are all these practices, again, that are supporting CPAN by sharing our social media posts, whether it's to learn about PBMs, learn about caregiving, learn about the drug costs, et cetera, et cetera. So next slide, please. Okay, and our CPAN chapter leaders is another just sampling. They're sharing CPAN education, their knowledge, and building their own speaking skills and leadership ability through a variety of ways as well. On the far left, we have Lisa Pori. She's been one of our longtime CPAN chapter leaders out of Fort Wayne. She was joined here on the stage with James Lee, who is the head of our state policy division, and they gave a great presentation during our conference. And Lisa was chosen for this in general, not just because she's a phenomenal leader, but before COA had a formalized state program, her practice in particular had been going to the state capitol in Indiana for many years. So it was a really great perspective. And then here's Cindy also. This is at the state leadership retreat that falls under our state policy division. And I was so happy to see Cindy here as one of our chapter leaders, on the big stage for the state policy, having gotten her start through CPAN, which is incredible. And she did a phenomenal job, I'm sure. And most recently, Angelina Lorello, another one of our fairly new chapter leaders from New York, was invited to speak to college students at the University of Rhode Island. And she talked about community oncology, CPAN, and just her experience. So CPAN literally has been everywhere, as I like to say, from the farmers markets to college campuses to senior centers talking about COA. But it's easy just to think that we're only on Capitol Hill at the conference, but CPAN has never stopped doing all of this year round. So wow, a shout out to all our incredible CPAN chapter leaders and advocates. Next slide, please. Okay, and COA continues to do an annual Sit in My Chair event. And just a thank you again to Florida Cancer Specialists and ECHO, who brought in their congressman. And also for Florida Cancer Specialists, I also want to give a shout out to Jim Browley and the marketing team that they work with, Aon, phenomenal. Thank you all so much for your great work and advocacy for COA and for CPAN. Next slide, please. The stars of the show. Okay, so you may have seen this incredible press release, which is COA launches a new patient advocacy chapter in Alabama. And this was in Clearview, Alabama. And if you've never been there, it was a really cool, hip town. I have to say, it was really fun. I enjoyed going there. So I am now going to turn it over to our very special guests, Rebekah Ormond and Chelsey Karr, an oncology nurse from Clearview, and they're going to tell you about their experience as our newest CPAN chapter leaders. Next slide, please. And welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for having us. Yes, so Rose has already introduced us, but we work at Clearview Cancer Institute that serves North Alabama in cancer care. Next slide, please.
Sometimes we have a little delay. That's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Yes, so one more. Yeah, perfect. So our chapter just began. We had our launch party at the end of October, on October 28th of this year. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how we got started. It all happened kind of organically. It was the next step for our patients and caregivers at Clearview Cancer Institute. I had the honor and privilege of being invited to speak as a panelist at this past April's COA conference, my first time attending, and oh my goodness, was it wonderful. I also found that it was the first year the advocacy track has come back post-COVID, and that was just wonderful to get to experience as well. So some of the guest speakers she just spoke about, I got to see personally, which was wonderful. My leadership, Michelle Brown, is our COO at Clearview Cancer Institute, and she had challenged me with getting a patient advocacy network started at Clearview Cancer Institute and representing our state of Alabama. And so I actually went up to Rose at this conference and said, hey, I've heard you're the girl. You're the girl I need to meet with. You do all this for patient education and advocacy, and we would love to have a partnership with you guys at COA. Rose made it so wonderful to join and be a part of this network. She's welcomed us with open arms, as you can tell. For our chapter launch event, we actually had our senior leadership, Michelle, our COO, welcome everyone. Evening of Dr. Bethany joined us and discussed in person how she as a physician has educated for her patients directly and the things that she has seen as barriers, either in care or community oncology as a whole. Myself and my co-leader, Chelsey Karr, have been very fortunate as we have joined the CPAN chapter's newest group, and we actually had our most recent first first chapter meeting this past Monday. So she's going to share a little bit about that.
Thank you.
And so just to add on to what Rebekah was saying a little bit while we get slides moving forward, is that Rose has made setting up our chapter so easy, has just handed us everything that we needed and told us step by step how to go about getting it set up really. And we just kind of show up and host.
Well, thank you for that. You want to advance the slide, Drew, please?
So this is a picture the night of. We had a really good turnout. We have patients, caregivers represented, clinical staff ranging from medical assistants, nurse navigators, prior authorization team, pharmacists, site coordinators, the whole works here. Next slide, please.
So this is from our first chapter event that we just had on Monday. You can see some pictures there to the right. We kind of did it as just like a laid back to encourage conversation. And so we went over just a little bit our chapter launch and what is COA and CPAN.
We have found that the roundtable discussion is really beneficial when we are dealing with patient caregiver stories, and we really wanted to make them feel as welcome as Rose, CPAN, and COA have made us as a chapter feel welcomed. So it really was beneficial to have it set up in this roundtable discussion way and have them be able to share their personal stories with us.
That's right. So one of the topics that we went over was the PBMs, or the pharmacy benefit managers. And luckily we had our retail pharmacy manager there with us because our patients and caregivers, and we even had someone there who wasn't a patient or caregiver. They're just in the medical field with a home care business and just felt called to come and get involved in advocacy in the cancer network, which was wonderful. But they were blowing up our pharmacy manager with questions. They were so eager to learn. There were so many questions. It was wonderful. And then once they learned all about that, their next question is, okay, how do we do something about this? How do we get involved? So it was just really encouraging seeing all of that.
COA makes it so easy to get involved, and that is exactly what we told them. Through the CPAN chapter, we will make a difference.
Yes, exactly. And we talked about what impact these PBMs and other things like that can have on cancer clinics, how, by them dictating drugs and whatnot, how it can consolidate clinics and result in clinic closings. We're fortunate at our clinic that we're a large clinic, and that's currently not an issue for us, but we don't ever want it to become an issue, and our patients don't either. So I think that's something that really motivates them as well to get involved and spread the word about regulating these types of things. So we talked about what are upcoming ways to get involved in CPAN and advocacy events, and they were all excited about those and want to know how can they go to COA conference.
We actually told them to join the Advocacy Chat because Rose was going to tell them the next steps.
Yeah.
Good. You could always feel free to put it on me. It's good.
Yes. We said we would be there, and then we will give clear instruction.
That's right.
Yes. Drew, next slide. Perfect.
Okay, so thank you so much, Chelsey and Rebekah. That's incredible. And I also want to give an extra special shout out to these two leaders, because they did a lot to make my time there very pleasant as well. They did a lot of work, not just encouraging. This is the piece that's so important from the practice. I always say I could do my part, but I can't do your part. Is they got everyone excited about coming to this event. Yes, we provide the promotional materials, and they put that out there. So it really does take a team. And I know it's just such a common question. What does it take to have a successful CPAN chapter? You need to have true support from the chapter leadership, not just verbiage. You need to have the true support. And there's a photo I wanted to include, but I didn't include it, but it's on my mind, so I'm going to describe it. It's a photo where for some reason, the angle, it's just me looking at Michelle Brown speaking, and it's complete fangirl. It's like I'm looking at a rock star, because her opening presentation was so moving, Dr. Bettini as well. But, that senior leadership talking with true compassion, and she knew COA so well. She's been involved with COA for a long time. And it was just, that's what you need. And as Rebekah said, and one of Michelle's comments that night is how quickly, Rebekah moved to get the chapter started, bringing in Chelsey. So that's what it takes. So thank you. And by the way, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I recognize some of those advocates that came to your chapter event that were at the launch event, and they're going to get scholarships. So thank you, and we're so happy to have you on board as part of our team. So a quick look forward to 2026. These are just a few examples. Chapter launches will continue as Steroid Cancer Care is one of our confirmed practices. Appreciation to our well-established CPAN chapters. They're going to continue to be doing ongoing CPAN practice-based education. There's a flyer, which I know you can't see all the detail, but a special shout out to Sunshine Markell, who's one of our leaders from Hope Cancer Care of Nevada, has already laid out a schedule for events in 2026. We have these advocacy chats. There will be a shift. The advocacy chats will no longer be monthly, not because they're not successful. You just saw the numbers, not because we don't love them. We do love them, but we're just doing some pivoting to make some room for some new type of advocacy opportunities to come in. And our chapters and practices and leadership from the practices have told us loud and clear that they want more virtual and hybrid events. So we're going to try to make that happen as well. And then there'll be ongoing national opportunities. There is a Hill Day confirmed for June 10th. There is no further information available now, but you can at least do a save the date. Next slide, please. And a giant thank you. I started off, I hope, with the thank you, and I want to thank you all again, our participants that joined us, that add to those numbers of viewerships, for talking about CPAN in a positive way. And if you talk about CPAN and you haven't been a part of CPAN, then you shouldn't be talking about CPAN. But if you've been a part of CPAN, talk about CPAN, because you hear from the people who are actually involved what they have to say about CPAN. So thank you to our patients, survivors, and caregivers for sharing your lived experience. To all of our leaders in the community oncology practices, from that front office receptionist to the people working in records to the CEOs and the oncologists. Thank you to our industry partners who have supported CPAN and for just supporting our initiatives and reaching out. To our CPAN medical co-chairs, Dr. Taluki and Dr. Viaz. I can't put their full titles there, but they're very impressive individuals taking care of patients all day and yet still finding time for CPAN. And I go to them with brainstorming ideas. And of course, my assistant, Tracy Banks, who's been a very important part of CPAN from the very beginning. And I would also like to thank Drew Lovejoy behind the scenes for answering all my weird pre-event questions, about lighting. And my lighting's a little off today, so sorry. But thank you, everyone, for being a part of CPAN. And I hope you enjoyed this end of the year review. Thank you, and reach out to me at any time. And this will conclude our event for the day. And enjoy the rest of the day. And happy holidays to all of you. And there's a few more slides. I made that sound like it was an ending, but there's a few more slides. Let's really quickly go through those. Don't forget this familiar slide. Stay engaged, participate in our chat, sign up for our newsletter, visit our website, share your story, follow us on social media. Next slide. And thank you again, Rebekah, Chelsey, our listeners. And our first advocacy chat of the year is always COA's Crystal Ball. Ted Ocon and Nick Ferrero's COA Senior Leadership will be our guest speakers, and hopefully they have this on their calendar. If not, this is an open invitation. So come and thank you. And now we're ending our advocacy chat. Have a wonderful holiday season.